Welcome learner. Let us know something about the temple art and architecture during 8th century to 12th century in ancient India. Temples, you all know, are the abode of gods and goddesses. And Hindus particularly, they built it for a long time. This is a place of worship. Previously, in the earliest time, most of the temples before the Guptas were rock-cut temples. That means they were hewn out of the caves. They are little elaborated, and then the altar is created at the back, at the end of the square area, and the image of God is kept on that altar. During the Gupta age, structural temple started to build. Now, let us first know the different type of temples of India, and later we will know how these temples were decorated or ornamented by the sculptors and the painters. There are actually three types of Indian temples. In the south, we call it Nagara style of temples. Now, the Nagara temples have a typical quality. Those who live in the northern side of India, they must have noticed these characteristics of the Nagara style. This is the Shikhara, this is the top, and this is called Bimana. Inside the Bimana, there is a place where the image of God is kept. Adjacent to this, there is another structure. We call it Mandapa. Mandapa is particularly built for those who come here to worship or pray to the God. So, here is some area where they sit and meditate or pray to God. Now, for northern Indian temples or the Nagara style, very important thing is to decorate all the sides of the temples. Sometimes some part of the inner side are also decorated with some sculptures and painting. So, this is the typical structure of the Nagara style of north. Nagara style mostly developed in Odisha. The most beautiful structures of Nagara temples we see in Odisha in the shape of Lingaraj temple and Konarak temple and etc. These temples are highly decorated with sculptures. They are very much popular all over the world, especially the sculptures of Konarak. Now, it is very important to learn in which areas of these temples or sculptures are kept. Odishan Nagara style of architecture always make a resemblance with the human figure. As the human figure has a head, a torso and legs, same way they imagine that the temple structure has also these three components of human body. Mastaka, the upper part, the torso part is called Gandhi, and the lower part is called Jangha. Now, in the upper part, two important components are the finial, or they call it Ayudha, and this pillow-like form, the cushion-like form is called Kalasha. The Indian sculptors of the temples, they prefer whole this area for their sculptures because there are a lot of niches and corners which is completely decorated with beautiful sculptures of human body and also animal figure and other things. And the lower part, Jangha, one is upper Jangha and the lower Jangha. Both of these are also very beautifully decorated by Nagara style of sculptures. Now, this style of Nagara, it spread all over India, from the Himachal to eastern side, Assam, Bengal, Bihar. Now, we will come to the next style of architecture, that is called Dravida. The Dravida style of architecture, which developed in the South India. The Pallavas, especially Narasingha Burman, he was one of the great admirers of art and architecture. During this period, he ordered to build few models for architecture in Mahabalipuram, which was their capital. This area also known as Mamallapuram. They are very famous for Pancharathas. Actually, they carved out of single stone, and they are known as Dharmaraja Ratha, Arjuna Ratha, Ganesha Ratha, Draupadi Ratha, etc. Anyway, two of the structures are very important for the development of Dravida form of architecture. That is the Dharmaraja Rath. You can see on a square base on the wall, there is a pyramidal shaped Vimana, that means the Shikhara upper part. There are 3-4 steps, and these are always beautifully decorated with some face or other decorative elements. The other one, the Ganesha Rath, which is rectangular or barrel shape, and on the top we can see again a barrel shaped form here. So, this is very important for the development of Dravid architecture for this reason. In the later period, we will see how these things developed in Dravida architecture. Here I can see the Yudhishthira Ratha or the Dharmaraja Rath that we have seen in Mahabalipuram was enlarged and given the perfect shape of the temple. There are 3 segments in the Dravida architecture instead of 2 segments of the Nagara style. Here you see the Biman in the style of the Dharmaraja Rath, and in the middle, in the very and under the canopy, there are the goddess images, and then the mandapa, or there is some time in between, there is one smaller mandapa which is called Ardha Mandapa. The devotees of the prayer, they enter through this and ultimately they come to the sanatorium sanctum. Now, Dravida architecture has a typical quality. They are almost like a fortress. The main structure of the temple is in the middle of the compound, and it is surrounded with sometimes 2 and 3 walls all over the compass. This temples or the Vimana is surrounded with walls in the all 4 sides, east, west, north and south. There are 4 gates in the 4 sides, which is known as Gopuram. Gopuram structure is actually the enlargement of the combination of this Dharmaraja Rath and also that of the Ganesha Rath. Here you can see this one is like the Dharmaraja Rath. But while the main temple is shorter, not very high, while the Gopuram was very high in its appearance. on the top we see the barrel form of the Ganesha Rath here. So, the Gopuram are sometime 4, sometime 8 and also sometime 12 in their appearance. Now, the decoration of this Gopuram absolutely mind-blowing. The sculptor not only carved these sculptures on the every steps of the Gopuram, but also they are beautifully colored. The main Vimana is not very much decorated, but in some temples they are also very much decorated with sculpture. Some of the Dravidian architectural temples are beautifully decorated with sculptures. For example, the temple of Brihadeshwara in Tanjavur is all source of our classical dance. Actually, the dance Bharatanatyam is revived from those sculptures that is ornamented all over the janghas or the side of the Brihadeshwara temple. So, in the next stage will come another form of architecture, that is Besara. Besara is a combination of Nagara and Dravida. This architectural structure is like the in the shape of the Kailash Nath mountain. The Kailash temple is the abode of Shiva. So, all the temples in Khajuraho particularly is built in the style of Besara. You can see here the main temple is very high and there are so many smaller structures all around the Shikhara. Then gradually lowering the height of the Mandapa and Ardha Mandapa. The base is very high and you are to go to this height with some stairs. So, this style is known as Besara style, which we can see in the picture here. The top, then the lower one and the lowest one, and it is just like at Kailash temple where Shiva supposed to be residing. Now, Khajuraho, Lingaraj temple or the temple of Odisha, all are beautifully decorated with sculptures. The development of architecture in ancient India, we started, I told you, with a structural temple from the Gupta period, but it continued for a long time. It developed in different parts of India and different dynasties. They patronize this particular temple architecture and also the sculptures to decorate these temples. The Guptas, they built few beautiful temples with structures like an eye hole. The Ganga dynasty, they developed the style of Nagara in a different way in Odisha, in Lingaraj temple and Konarak temple and also Raja Rani temple. They are beautifully decorated. Then we see the Chandelas of central India. They built a very beautiful complex of temples in Khajuraho, which is popular worldwide. Apart from the stone or sandstone structures of these temples, we see some temples in the eastern side. They are made of terracotta tiles. Since the lack of availability of stones, eastern side especially Bengal and Assam, they preferred to build their temples with clay brick and that is decorated with terracotta tiles. First, it is built in the form of a structure in resemblance to the thatched hut of Bengal. Interestingly, one of the Pancharathas of Mahabalipuram, which is known as Draupadi Rath, have the same kind of structure in the shape of thatched hut. This means that style spread even to the south from Bengal. In a way, in Bengal, especially in Bankura side, we will see these beautiful temples were built. Each tiles are not very big in size. They are sometimes 6 by 6 inches or 4 by 4 inches, were made from clay. Then they are turned into terracotta to make it permanent. And then like tiles we put on the wall, that is also actually put on the wall. There are Shiva temples, Vaishnava temples, even there are temples in the name of Durga. And the theme for Ramayana, Mahabharata and Krishna Lila also depicted on the tiles and it was decorated. Later we will see some kind of temples were built in the western side. Especially we can name the famous temple of Mount Abu, the Dilwara temple. Now by this time there are some invasion from the western side and they didn't want to give exposure to these temples for the fear of vandalism. So from outside it is very difficult to recognize the temple of Dilwara. The top is absolutely plain. It doesn't look as if that there is nothing there. But when you enter, you will be surprised and mesmerized by the beautiful rock cut of your marbles. The white marbles are used to decorate the whole temples from the walls to the ceiling. The intricate designing of this Dilwara temple is still an awesome examples of our ancient Indian sculptures. So learner, you see that the development of art and architecture went hand in hand in India. In one hand, the architects of the temples, they made so many experiments. They gave different shape of the Nagara, Dravida and Besara style. In the same way, the sculptors of ancient India, they never tire of experimenting with their styles. So, we will find different style in northern India, in southern India, in western India and also eastern India. Here I forget to name one more beautiful architectural repeat. Here I should have mentioned another beautiful rock cut temples of Ellora in Maharashtra. Rashtrakuta built this beautiful rock cut structure in Ellora. A hill was curved from the top to bottom and built two-storied temple which is known as Kailasnath temple of Ellora. You can see here that how whole thing has been carved out of a hill and given the shape beautifully. Not only that, only the shape of the architecture. Every part of the Kailasnath temple is beautifully curved with sculptures. One of the most famous of the sculpture is Mahishasura Mardini. So, learners, we have seen that how the different kind of works of art and architecture were developed in ancient India. I hope you have enjoyed these visuals, and it will inspire you to go further to learn about Indian art and architecture that were developed during 8th century to 12th and 16th century. Thanks for the listening of this video.
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो,
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा और परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बात
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। स्वयं बने,
प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा और परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता